So, I started out with a story. It wasn't a very pleasant story, and I can tell that story without crying, like I did the first time I told that story way back when, because I've told it so many times, but it still has an impact on me. And I've tried not to let it happen again. In fact, that same facility that had that injury went the next 654 days with 0 recordable injuries because I got religion. And by the way, I've been to seminary, so I know what having a religion is about. But I made it a point, okay? So I view my job as somebody responsible for other human beings as a stewardship. Okay? Stewardship's kind of an old word. Okay? I don't know exactly what modern context we use the word stewardship in, but a steward in a long time ago, a steward was a kind of a slave that was given responsibility for his master's belongings, and often his house. In fact, the Greek word for steward means house law. That's the 2 words. Anyway, I won't go into that because I learned how to read Greek when I went to seminary, so I know all these weird things. But stewardship, so I'm a steward. The things that I am responsible for in my company, which seems like a fairly big slice, I don't own any of them. I mean, I personally don't own even the chair I sit on in my office. I don't own the pens that I use to sign paperwork, you know. And I certainly don't own the people that have been entrusted to me so that I can make money. My job as a steward is to take care of those assets. And the first asset that I've been entrusted with is the people. And I've said it before, and I hope you picked up on it, but they're the ones that are making money. I don't make anything I can sell, and probably none of you do either. Why do they pay you anyway? Your boss ought to ask you that question every now and then. It's sort of scary. Have I contributed enough to my organization that I ought to get paid today? Because I didn't make anything that you could sell. I'm not doing what lean manufacturing call a value-added operation, right? So what do I do all day besides sit on my butt? Well, one of the things that I'm responsible for is to take care of the people who actually earn the income by making things that I can sell. But I have another responsibility, and that's my company's reputation. And that's very closely related to my people. I have a picture there, and that's a picture of a barbershop. And you know why I put a barbershop next to the words our reputations? Because that's where I find out about my company's reputation. See, I go to the local barbershop. I've been going there the last 30 years. Okay? I know all the 3 barbers, Wally, Tonda, and Lisa. Okay? Tonda does the best job, by the way. But I hear from them because they know I'm a boss. They don't know exactly what I do, because they don't really pay attention when I talk in the barber chair anyway. They're just there to, converse while I'm getting my hair cut, right? But I hear in the barbershop what my employees have said to the barbers about my company. What's in the community? Hey, we're working a lot of hours lately, and the barber will literally make small talk with me about that, and I will find out what the press is about Enkei in the community by listening at the barbershop. Well, guess what? Our responsibility includes taking care of our company's reputation, because the people that hear about my company in my community are the people I'm trying to hire. Okay? They're the family members of the people that work in my company, particularly the ones that are deciding whether they should take that job for 25 cents an hour somewhere else. Company press, our reputation in the community matters, and safety impacts that. Hearing about somebody that got hurt harms the reputation in my community about my company. And don't you think that it gets around? It does. You buy a car that's a lemon, you tell a bunch of people. You see somebody get horribly injured or have an amputation in your factory, you don't think people are talking about that? And it's my job as part of executive management to deal with, to manage, to keep pristine our reputation in the community. If I allow it to be sullied, that hurts me financially as well as every other way. Safety matters because we have a stewardship responsibility for our reputation. So our first priority is our people, our second priority is our reputation, and our third priority is our stuff. That's a picture inside of one of my factories. But that's the right order, and sometimes we get that confused, especially because there's a whole lot of tangible money tied up in all that equipment in that picture. And most of the reports and paperwork that falls on my desk or meetings that I sit through are about stuff. How many? How big? How much? But I gotta keep focused on my reputation and our people because that's what that's for. And all that equipment means nothing if I don't have anybody that's willing to run it. If I got everybody all in a tizzy because they saw Ralph bleeding on the floor, because I can't get enough people because they heard that I work them too hard, and when they go home, they're sore all the time. So we have a management stewardship, and that's the rock bottom fundamental perspective that we need to have. And it's why we have responsibility as executives, not just the safety director, not just the plant manager, but the top dog has responsibility they cannot delegate for the stewardship of their people, their reputation, and their stuff. And it's those things that drive. You want to hear about sustainable organizations, the latest buzzword. You have a sustainable organization when you take care of the things that have been entrusted to you as a steward. And you take care of them in this priority order. But there are other things that, of course, happen when we have poor safety performance. And I don't want to spend a long time reiterating all of that, but obviously, there are human losses, real losses, data, statistics, they're numbers. When Scott's sister came up to me and grabbed my shirt, literally grabbed my shirt, her face this far away from me, the human aspect of safety was driven home pretty clearly. And it doesn't just hurt the worker, it hurts the families of the people that are hurt. You got to deal with that. And there's some citations at the bottom. You can read more about it. But we need to kind of lean into this aspect sometimes. We don't want to sanitize the issue of safety as just another metric in the scoreboard. Our reputation is harmed by poor safety. I think that's an intuitive concept, but it hurts recruitment. You definitely don't want to have the newspaper pick up on a bad injury and put your name in the paper in an unfriendly light. It's just not good. I don't know about you, but my boss, the COO, he's in the Rotary Club and the Economic Development Board and something with the library and the hospital. And, those people, they rub shoulders with other folks in the community, and they don't like fielding questions about what was in the paper the other day about them. Salaried staff think that a place that has a lot of injuries, while they may not personally be threatened, they worry about the long-term viability of an organization like that. So when you're trying to hire engineers, technical staff, And those guys are pretty savvy. So what do? They go online to find out what kind of reputation you got. I don't know what's in your social media associated with your company, but injuries show up in that kind of environment. So you get stuff like this. Amazon faces fines, death of a second warehouse worker. You think they like that? Think that helps them recruit? I don't think so. Indiana man dies. Ford worker dies. Parent workplace injury. Worker injured. 2 injured in the plastics business. All kinds of bad stuff. We don't want that, right? But injuries also cause productivity losses. Where does that come from? This chart also comes from Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's the average time away when you have a lost time injury accident. Okay? So I combined RV and trailer in this simplified chart, and we put private manufacturing as the orange bars. So there's the distribution, and of course, 31 plus days is the highest bar on this chart for private manufacturing. 1 day loss, we're about equal. 2 days lost, much less. But 3 to 5 days lost, we have a lot of those in the RV and trailer world. What's 3 to 5 days lost? I don't know what that costs you, but it's not cheap. Okay? Every worker that's gone, what do? You put somebody on overtime. I don't know, maybe you pay a temp agency to bring somebody in. Depending on the skill level of the job of the person that's gone, it costs you money. It's hassle. It's a headache for the supervisor. He's got more to do with less skilled people. It's productivity loss, and that costs money. And anytime you have an injury, there's all sorts of other subsidiary things that have to take place to deal with the fallout of that injury. Lots of clerical time. Median day lost. Median is the middlemost value, right? 8 days. Okay? So half of the injuries that are lost time are more than 8, half are less. Financial impact. Obviously, you got some direct costs in medical expenses and wages. Insurance premiums for a high mod rate, right, for your workman's comp. Depending on the nature of the injury, you may have to screw around with your process, may have to hold things in place so an investigator can come in to evaluate, particularly if you've got an amputation, which has to be reported within 24 hours to OSHA. They're going to come and visit that site. They're going to want to see what's going on. It's the dog and pony show. A death, 8 hours notice. Fortunately, this industry, most recently, we've had one death each year for the last, I think, 2. Then there were a few years with none. And if you go back several years, it's 3 or 4. And there was 1 year, I think it was 2005, there were 11. Terrible. But, so there's definitely money lost. This chart comes from Liberty Mutual. Again, right out the internet. They publish this information as a public service. And this is a Pareto chart, a chart of rank ordering in terms of how much money industry spends on various types of injuries. Overexertion injury is the highest expenditure within U.S. workplaces. And the chart is denominated in billions with a B dollars. Now, where the trailer industry is in regards to this chart, I don't know. but it would be a very useful thing to find out where your particular company falls in terms of where it's spending its money on what kind of injuries. It's not an insignificant amount. OSHA estimates that there are, of course, direct costs, but there are indirect costs associated with injuries. And they figure that the average injury costs about $17,600. Again, you'll have to make some calculations yourself, and it certainly depends on where you are overall on your modification rate, but that's thousands and thousands of dollars difference in what you pay in workman's comp. They have some calculators on the OSHA website. There's a site URL, I think they call it, there if you want to follow up. We talked a little bit about workman's comp, and motor vehicle injuries are clearly the number one cause for workman's comp. All claims, they average about $39,000. And burns are second highest, a big issue in my foundry industry friends. But falls and slips are number 3, and that's the big one for you guys. Number 3 highest cost. And then by nature, again, these charts here are from the National Safety Council, and you can get this stuff online as well, nsc.org, I believe. Amputations, by far and away, are the most expensive from a workman's comp perspective. And then fractures, which is a big issue in this industry, is number 2. So these are not insignificant costs. Safety hurts quality. Poor ergonomics leads to shortcutting, poor handling practice, and appearance damage. I did a whole paper on evaluating this kind of thing. There's just so many things that the worker does when they are fatigued to the point where they're not paying attention anymore, or they have some kind of a pain in their fingers, in their hand, in their shoulder, in their back. They do things differently. They favor that side or that joint, and so the standard work that you planned for them to do, they can't do. They hold the tool differently because it hurts them to do it the one way. Just a simple thing like I made all these binders you got in front of you, so I had to put them all in the binder and then fold over those little metal clips. After doing 90 of those, my fingers are sore. Well, what if I had to do that all stinking day? You know, there are rules about how much finger pressure you can exert with how many reputations before you start really actually spraining your thumb. No, I didn't get anywhere close to that, but I'm not doing this for a living, you know. But there are jobs that we force people to snap things in place, as an example, over and over and over again. And pretty soon, it's pretty hard to do that. And so that electrical connection doesn't get made all the way. Or that little grommet around a hole doesn't get pressed in all the way. That's a quality defect. And it's a quality defect that occurs because we're not paying attention to the fact that we got a human doing this. And they get tired. And their fingers get sore at the end of the day. And they're trying to work fast. So not only are there slips and, you know, kind of, we would call them bonehead mistakes or spacing out kind of mistakes, but we also have poor decision making that happens when we're tired and in a hurry and wanting to just get done and keep up with Ralph, who's pushing me to get that next trailer out. Another factor that we have to deal with, and it's a real factor, especially if you can get people to the point where they will talk to you openly about how they are thinking is if they don't think you care about them, they're not going to care about what they're making. Sorry. I don't exactly have Enkei blazoned on a tattoo on my chest, but I've been there 30 years. I care about the company, and I'm in a position of responsibility. So if people say something bad about the company, I get excited. I want to rise up to defend that. Your workers, what do they think? Well, that's largely determined by how you treat them, not how much you pay them, how you treat them. Okay? What their life is like. Not just when they walk in the door at the morning, but when they leave at the end of the day and are going like this, or kind of like this, That is what determines what they think. And what they think works out in their behavior and in their decision making. And, I don't know about you, but I want everybody to feel free to speak up and tell me about what's going on the floor, because I want to know about little problems before they become big problems. And I want to know when a job is really hard to do right, because at least I can try to fix that and make it better so that we don't have quality problems with that particular issue. If I got to reach up behind here and put that in, and that's just really hard to do, and I can't see, and I can't hold the flashlight to see what I'm doing, well, I want to know about that. Maybe I should have figured that out in design. I shouldn't have made somebody have a situation where they got to do that. But now that I'm stuck with it, at least I need to know about it, so maybe I can take some countermeasures. But if you've got a facility where the operators are not asked what they think, or they know that if they speak up, there will be ignored or only partially listened to, meaning it'll go one ear and out the other, then pretty soon they don't really care about telling you about stuff like that. Because, okay, if you don't care, I don't care. Well, that's death for quality, right? Okay? All sorts of bad things can happen and you not have any clue. And as long as big square objects are moving down, life is okay. But it's not that way. And having that kind of relationship with people is necessary for both safety and quality. And if you lose it on the safety front, if they feel that you really don't care, if they're tired or their thumb just can't take another press, if they feel that you don't care about that, do you think they're going to care about anything else? No. So, safety and quality are intimately related, and it has to do with our ability to communicate on the shop floor. So, in summary, the impact of safety. Some of the impact can be put directly into dollars and cents. A lot can't. It's indirect, hard to measure, but real. And your best people, of course, stay because they've formed a relationship with you, a relationship based on trust, that you're going to take care of them. We talk about having a family environment, and maybe it's not exactly a family, but they at least got to feel safe there. They got to feel like they have a voice. Not an authoritative voice. I don't want to be run by the shop floor. It's still, the boss has still got to know what to do, and there's got to be a structure, but you need to hear from that level of people that are actually interacting with the product every day.